Hello, hello. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha. And this is, of course, the Paranormal World Show under the umbrella of Broadcast Team Alpha. You know, the show for the thinking global citizen that is not afraid to step outside of the box and look what is there, because it's different than what's in the box. Well, my name is Augie, and I'm the captain here tonight, and I will introduce you to a guest again, which we had here probably about a month or so ago as a guest. But we're going to talk about something totally different, because there's some really weird stuff going on over in Europe, and you're going to love to hear about it. And we are coming to you now from about 40-some plus different platforms all over the world, and we are also transmitting through the wonderful platform of the Conscious Awakening Network. And because of them, we are also on the Roku, 3 TV station, and a bunch of other places. So check us out. You'll find us just about everywhere. And yeah, check out the Conscious Awakening Network.org. You're going to find a bunch of good stuff there. I think it's about close to 50 different shows now that is going. And look through the titles of it, and I bet you're going to find one that you can't live without seeing. So just try it out. And before I introduce the guest tonight, I want to tell you how you can connect with us, because you can find us on broadcastteamalpha.com. You'll find us on YouTube with the same name, and pretty much everywhere else with the same name. And if you are seeing us on YouTube right now, please subscribe. If you like what you hear and see, subscribe, because that'll help us. And also click the bell next to it, because then you'll know when the next video comes out and the next show comes out. And you don't want to miss out on that. And YouTube is also the best place to watch us, because that's the only place where we watch the chat room. You can ask questions and you can participate in the show in the chat room, and we may be able to answer your questions right there in the chat room if you like. And also, I want to mention that Nori and I created a spiritual think tank, where we do incredible things that, according to the laws of physics, should not happen, but it does. And if you want to come and have a look at that, send us an email at themastermindconnection@gmail.com. themastermindconnection@gmail.com. And I'll send you some information about the mastermind, what it is, how it works, and what we do. And also, I'll send you a link so you can come and check it out. And now I'm going to introduce the guest again. He's returning to Broadcast Team Alpha. And we have Brett Shepard here. And he's got a long time history of extraterrestrial contact. He went through a lot of childhood trauma and an early ET abduction by a very friendly ET that also helped him through the trauma. And he started early to study the esoteric knowledge. He also had a time anomaly. Later, he started to study NASA prints and anomalies, and he found that things are not like we've been told on the moon and on Mars. We are not alone. And yeah, that term becomes a joke. If you look at all the pictures and everything, all the evidence of stuff going on out there. He also started the Lunar Anomaly Research Society. And you can Google that, and you can you can find it through several places. So the Lunar Anomaly Research Society. I know they're on YouTube and Facebook, I think both, I believe. And that pretty much establishes the fact that NASA is full of something that we can't say on TV. Anyway, Welcome back here, Brett. We got some interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. You know, it takes a long time to talk about all of these things,
Yeah.
and I could I could talk about them forever. But
Yeah. Yeah. I know you're a digger, and you get out of the box, and you get so far outside of the box that you find stuff that other people probably never will be able to see or find.
they would be afraid to see what I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. There's a lot of fear out there because the people in the box, they're afraid of their own shadow, and that's why they normally don't show up in sunshine.
But I get it. They get a pass. You know, it's okay.
Yeah,
I
but
get
that's
it.
all. Yeah, it's their journey, so we have to love them. But
Yeah.
you found something a while back about some girls, some young ladies, I should call them, over in the Czech Republic. They've had some incredible experiences for years, very verified experiences. They have communicated with extraterrestrials, and they have some really anomalous things happening in a specific restaurant where things are falling out of the ceiling and something is talking to them. And I would want to you talk about this, but tell us a little bit about the girls first. They have basically an average education at the similar to the high school level here, I suppose. But but they have been given some really far ahead science information that excites some of the scientists they're telling about it. Where do you want to start on this?
Well, when this started for them, they told the story of a contact or a very disruptive contact that they had. They came home one day. I think I'm not sure if their father was home or not with them, but they went in the house and they heard a bunch of crashing and clanging and banging going on in the upstairs, I believe, or in the other room. I believe they said it was upstairs. I'm not sure. But they said when they saw this creature, it looked like a draconian type of extraterrestrial or interdimensional with wings and like a lizard type being, not unlike the friendly communications they've had with the other sort of entity, but this scared the crap out of them. They weren't real thrilled about it, and I think they felt like it was going to hurt them, or maybe it did try to hurt them. But that's how all of this started, and I think that I think, I don't know why, but they are a portal. There's some kind of portal, and it has to do also with the energy of the area that they live in. Not it's a geographic vagueness, but that part of Eastern Europe, where this happened, it started a little bit of history. It started all the way back and into Nazi Germany, in the 50s or 30s rather, where they were studying Brill and all of this other things, and there was this lady named Maria Orsic, whose energy is very compatible to her, Ilona and Ivana, which is just something I notice. It's something I notice. But this lady also used the same techniques to communicate with a spirit from Aldebaran, is what their entity said. So another space being, you know. And they were talking about their obsession with Brill energy in their group. I believe it was the Brill Society later, before it was something else. And this idea of Brill started in the United States. These were subterranean type beings, or interdimensional subterranean type beings, who had wings and all kinds of things, and they called them Brillians. Mm-hmm. And they were beings that showed themselves to miners, and they took a miner down into the caves, and this miner wrote about all of these things. And the book was called The Coming Age. Mm. And I don't know if a lot of people know that part of the story, but
no,
this was another interdimensional aspect to their story. But, you know, so Maria Orsic used the, spirit board to contact this being from Aldebaran, and it was communicating to her through the old Scythian type languages, mm-hmm. like, very Nordic symbolism, okay. And I believe that that's what they use as graphics. I believe they try to communicate with graphic communication. And that's why they use the old symbols, this old symbolic language.
Yeah.
Sort of like the Chinese, with their symbolic language.
You mentioned Maria Orsic, or Maria Orsic, which she's called. And when I look at the two ladies, Ilona and Maria Orsic, I see some real similarities in the way the contact is happening, and even the material coming through in the written form in many cases here, because they have science. There was science far ahead of their time at the time. So there is the similarities. They are
a lot of people don't know, but that society that Maria Orsic belonged to really, what they were doing had little to nothing to do with the Nazis. Right. It was just something the Nazis were interested in. They were absolutely obsessed with the occult, so they were interested in it. Mm-hmm. But their society was quite different from that. It started out as an old society. I think the Teutonic Knights with the black, started that society, mm-hmm. Even way before the Nazi stuff, or Nazi Germany time period. So they started it way back then, and it ended up becoming something that Madame Blavatsky was into.
Yeah.
It ended up being something to that nature, of philosophy of sorts. Mm-hmm. But it carried on, it carried on.
The two ladies in the Czech Republic now, and let's mention their names so they can get on record that they actually are part of this show.
You could probably say it better than I can. So you go ahead.
Yeah. Ilona Podraska.
Ilona Podraska, yeah.
Yeah, and her sister, how do you pronounce that?
Ivana.
Mm-hmm. Ivana Podraska.
Yep.
Yeah, they've been doing this for a very long time.
They have, and they have an overwhelming amount of information that they've collected from this entity. Mm-hmm. So much so that you can't deny that this is happening.
Yeah.
And they're Ilona is a simple hairdresser, and Ivana is a factory worker, so their life, their everyday life is not all that creative.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. They're not highly educated. I believe that they're intelligent women, but I don't believe that they've been educated toward nuclear physics and all of these other things that this communication is coming through.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so that there's that. So it's a very significant thing, and I'm not a skeptic, so I'm not trying to find a hole in their story or something, But I do notice that there are skeptics. I've followed them too and what they've said, and it's all rubbish.
Yeah.
Uh, so very small minds.
They they have a very large volume of information that has been brought through, and you helped them write a book about that.
I did, and I just helped them put together their book for them because it was an overwhelming amount of information, and I felt it necessary to not edit it, uh, to edit it in English or whatever, um, but just put exactly what the being said.
Yeah.
And how they said it, because I thought how they said it was very important as well. Because remember, there's a subtle communication going on there. So I thought readers might enjoy how unusual that book is. I told a little bit of story about them at the beginning of the book, but most of the rest of the book I introduced that communication. Mm-hmm. And it started out with Ebioli, the entity from Malaysia, saying that he is not a ghost.
Yeah.
So it already pretty much lays down the fact that he's communicating with them interdimensionally. And that takes a technology, a very special natural technology that every human being has. But they were chosen because I think they're very open to that type of communication, but they didn't even know they were, So it was something that was very natural with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it might have had something to do with the angry entity that tried to hurt them. And did I tell that story?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. But very strange things have been happening along the way. First, all of those communications, to lay down what Earth should do, to become part of a galactic thing.
Yeah.
Is what I believe the whole thing is about, is to try and get us to kind of fly right so that we can become a better planet, better human beings, etc. Because none of the communication seemed to be diabolical or militant. So it wasn't something that I feel the CIA or the Pentagon or military was secretly involved in or anything like that, because there's like zero keywords that are military. Not a whole lot going on, maybe accidentally, but there's not much there. The being talks like some entities that I have encountered or whatever, or communicated with in dreams, that I call Paraquin, because that's what they said that their name was, And most of that communication was very vibrant dreams, and very realistic feeling dreams. And it seemed like a mirror, because they would do all kinds of silly things that didn't make sense. But when I woke up or whatever and thought about it, it made sense in my real actual life. So a lot of things were happening like that's similar to what they're going through,
Yeah, I can see that. And there is some activities going on when they go to a restaurant. I have some pictures they have sent me, and I'm going to show you guys those pictures in a little bit. Where there's a restaurant, when they go there, things happen. When they're not there, I don't think anything happens. But there are things falling out of the ceiling, and there are somebody speaking through a speaker that is hooked up to the radio, but sometimes the radio is off. and they still talk to the speaker. So there's
Right.
So let's go there, find out what is actually the kind of activity that they are engaging here.
Well, I and the way I look at it, and from my experience with talking to interdimensionals, is they don't want to scare us. They know that technology is a little bit frightening to human beings, so they don't want to come off frightening, and they're not frightening. If anyone was to encounter them in their dreams, they probably have encountered them in their dreams. Most people wouldn't admit that, but so they don't want to frighten them, and they want to continue the communication, even though, Ilona and Ivana have been through so much. I doubt that little would frighten them,
No, that wouldn't frighten them.
No. But so if they're talking to a speaker that was on, and then they noticed that the speaker was off and it was still happening, that is a very subtle clue that they're trying to give them, that this is some kind of interdimensional communication.
Yeah.
And I think, writing all of that down, it would probably have given Ilona writer's cramp. If she was to actually, write all of the communications down, and I'm sure she's experienced a little carpal tunnel from it. But if Ivana would tell them what they're saying with the spirit board, and Ilona would write it all down.
Mm-hmm.
She was the scribe, for writing all of the communication down. Well, you can't write all of that communication down in one session and think of it at the same time. So it is direct communication that is being transcribed.
Yeah.
So that's the other clue, if someone wants to dig into that and find how they're doing it, because it's not planned. This isn't a plan of some sort. They just have a session with these entities, and she's writing everything down that is coming through Ivana. So that's kind of how that's working.
Yeah,
And the spirit board has very little to do with it, except for a divination object, to help with the communication from the interdimensional space and Ivana, directly. And the spirit board or whatever, I think it helps her concentrate on what they're saying easier. But I don't think that it's actually spelling anything out particularly, but I think it's a device for Ivana to be able to translate that so quickly, as a divination.
Yeah. And there was quite a while ago now, I get probably 1 or 2 texts a week from Ilona, because she sends me everything that they get. And one time, I think, oh gosh, it's got to be almost a year ago now, she sent me something that really was incredible, and it was drawings, scientific drawings. There was no words to it. There was just lines of circuitry and components, and she didn't know what it was, but she had that come through. And then she drew it out the way that it came through her mind at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you've probably seen some of those drawings that they made. There are drawings with messages on it, and
it reminded me a lot of the Hannibal drawings that came out of Maria Orsich.
Yeah.
And the specs to the Nazi UFOs, etc. And also the vortex energy drawings. Now, Maria Orsich was, she wasn't some kind of mastermind either. She was a very simple lady, but here she is drawing these very scientific nuclear physics type drawings, of these spacecraft and vortex energy and all of these different philosophies and ideas about energy.
Yeah.
And that's what it reminds me of when, when Ilona's drawing these pictures or whatever, and she doesn't know what they are. These different types of circuitries probably mean something to a computer engineer,
Yeah. And that happened. They had some of these drawings presented to somebody at the university over there.
Mm-hmm.
And because everybody was laughing at it first, but they weren't laughing at the university because they saw that there's something here, so they wanted to talk to them. I don't know how that came out, but they did talk to somebody at the university about the drawings. They got interested.
Yeah, they should be interested. Yeah. I don't know where that went either, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then they go to the restaurant and they sit down and hey, these girls drink beer, okay? So they order a beer. Yeah, and everybody in Europe drinks beer. And yeah.
I did when I was there.
Yeah, me too. I made it at home. And then they sit down and they don't have to be there more than a few minutes, and coins start falling out of the ceiling on the table and on the floor, and all kinds of goofy stuff start showing up in the room, just popping out of the wall sometimes. Speak to this, because this is, I don't know anywhere else where this has happened.
Well, the closest thing that I've encountered that, like someone that I've talked to was Andrew Bashago, and he was talking about portals and portal energy. And I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Andrew's a friend of mine. He got the Mars Anomaly Research Society started and was happy to help me when I called mine Moon Anomaly Research Society, which was exactly the same acronym as Mars Anomaly Research Society.
Oh.
So he decided, he'd help me out and rename it Lunar, And he also introduced me to my girlfriend, so that was nice of him. But he talked about this. He talked about this portal energy, where they would send stuff through an actual portal that are in the United States. One I think was in Mount Shasta or something like that, and it would come through to, or he talked about this one that they built actually, that they harnessed this portal energy, and he actually went through it with his friends and ended up in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. So I thought that was highly interesting, and it seems like the same type of natural energy that's exploited with these different dimensional portals. And when stuff is popping out that's just arbitrary stuff, it's not, the things that are coming out are not significant. They're showing that there's an actual portal there. So that's the significant thing, is they want us to know that they are able to do these things, scientifically or otherwise, And so I think that is the subtle point to that, because the objects that are coming out are just like a hodgepodge of things that are eccentric, and they're coming from different parts of the world or different states or whatever, different countries, So I think what's actually coming out is not all that significant, although I would like to know, like I said before, the date that's on the coins, and also how old the coins are. Are there fingerprints on the coins? There's a lot of different ideas that you could look at those objects and say, well, if there's more to this, then maybe we should study those objects a little better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would do anyway.
The fingerprints, that's an interesting concept. That
Whose
that's
fingerprints are on it? Roy Orbison, who else?
yeah, there you go. maybe maybe you got Elvis's fingerprint on there. But,
Right.
yeah, but another thing that she has told me in the text is that when the coins come through and some objects, they're little black tubes, which we're going to see in a little bit here. I'll show you the pictures. They are hot. They're warm. When the coins come through, they're not cold like they normally. They have a little temperature to it. And sometimes the tubes, when they come together, it's been so hot that they melt together.
Wow.
So there's something with the energy in the tube when the funnel they're coming through, it's hot. So the object coming through is being affected by the heat. And
yeah. So what would create that? I would think a lot of speed, would create something like that, like heat, friction, either speed or friction.
Yeah, or just the energy in the funnel where they come could, if the energy, we're just guessing on this one, but
well, yeah, that's what Andrew Bishago said. He said some people got stuck in it halfway through or whatever, and their feet would get cut off and stuff like that. So there's definitely a force there with these different types of portals, especially on Earth. Because the electromagnetic state, the electromagnetic state is so high, which also causes heat, energy, and all that. When magnets are going around at a high velocity, they're going to cause a lot of heat.
It does.
I think,
and there are times when they sit for a couple of hours at the restaurant, they have something like, I don't know about in the Czechoslovakian currency, but it could amount to about $5 to $10 worth of stuff, or sometimes more, of coins falling onto the floor or the tables or in the lap of other people sitting in the restaurant. Some of these people, they see those coins falling out of the ceiling or popping out of the wall, and they get scared shitless and they leave. And then
that wouldn't make me leave.
Yeah, and then there are police officers that has been there, and it's been verified, and they see what's happening. And there's a local TV station that came and they did a show on it because they saw this happening. They verified it.
That's
so there is a lot of evidence. This is no joke. It is happening.
Oh yeah, it is happening, and like I said before, our government admitted that they were working with extraterrestrials, and they have. The whole Roswell thing was real and everything else. So of course there's something going on. There's something really major going on with the, especially with the interdimensional aspect. It makes me briefly think of Eisenhower. On the tarmac at Holloman Air Force Base when they encountered a interdimensional being, and the scientists it froze them. It boggled their minds so bad they couldn't even say anything.
Yeah.
They were absolutely in shock. And that's what happens when someone is going into that situation as a skeptic or something. They're going to be shocked when they realize that something really is happening because they're experiencing it themselves.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I do have some pictures here, so let me share screen and I will share some of those pictures with you.
Sounds good, yeah.
I will share screen here, and there we go. Oops. Let me try that again.
I can see it.
Okay, I see. I have the video and audio. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah,
Okay, good.
it's working.
This is some of the coins flying out of the ceiling or popping or just showing up. And there were one time she told me that she came back. They ordered beer. It was sitting on the table, and she walked to the bathroom and came back, and her beer was crooked, sitting on the table. So she looked at that, and there was a coin underneath the beer, between the table and the beer, that was stuck underneath the beer.
Wow.
Yeah. And how did that happen? You know, it's almost like somebody put it there. But her her friend, I mean her sister was there, and she said that there was nobody here. It just showed up. So
yeah, that's interesting. It is a touchy thing, you know. It's very subtle, and some of it also seems like some kind of bar tricks or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's like I said. That's how silly those interdimensional beings are. They like to do trickster type things.
Yeah, they like to show off a little bit.
They are a little bit show offy. Yeah, they're very entertaining.
Yeah. Here is a tube that came through. That's on the left there at the top, and all the coins from I don't know how long, but it could be an hour or two. I don't know, that they assembled. And there is more. I showed you this, and here is the restaurant. There is one guy sitting there, and this is inside the restaurant. And quite often she says in the text that when the speaker box, she calls it, start talking, the chandelier and the fan here and the lights flicker sometimes, and the lights start going back and forth, just like there's somebody wiggling it.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is really incredible. And here is more coins that is falling out of the ceiling. And yep, more coins. And here is, I cut myself off. I guess that didn't work too well. So I will.
All right. There's your Facebook page.
Yeah, there's my Facebook page. And let me see here. If I can go up and get clear of something here. That wasn't meant to happen, but it did. Here is a movie. This is in the restaurant. When coins are falling, she took a I'm going to turn the volume on that down because I don't speak Czech anyway. So this is what it
Další. Holky, tak já rozsvítím, ahoj. Já rozsvítím, to je psycho. Rozsvítím, ať to vidím. Hele, tady peníze. Koruna. Děkuju. 3 koruny. Holky, je tady Iva, ano. Jsme rozsvítili jsme, aby nás bylo víc vidět. A já jsem začala mluvit o Hitleru a začaly padat pěťáky. Hele, Ulrich a židle, že jí poskočila. Ulrich, jsme tady, ano. Tady, další jako, jo? Hej, Iva je všechno divný. I 20 tam padlo. Ta paní to viděla, jak to tady mláclo otopení. Další, hele.
To tady ze shora.
Hoďo, vidíš?
Kolik?
Co to, počkej, to je 5 koruna. Děkuju, Ulriku. Tady, vidíš, to padá normálně z prostoru.
Tamhle z toho, z té šachty, ne?
No, najednou to vypadne, viď? Pleskne tohle. Uzacha nejvíc. Ale děje
A
se
po
to
kebabu
i
ještě říkala
taky
teďka.
a u Lidovy školy umění taky padaly pěťáky. I v loni, i letos.
Well,
A i v Amigu na zahrádce, víš, Ulrichu, že mám pravdu. Padají. Další, hele. Neboj, neboj. To padá, tak. Tak já fakt musím rozsvítit.
Co ten je?
Iva sbírá.
Za mnou?
Padají pěťáky.
Za mnou ještě. Já tady kanu.
Hele, Iva má další. Padají další.
Ty vole, tak dobře, děkuji ti.
sounds like almost like Christmas Eve.
Yeah, they're genuinely surprised of what's happening.
Yeah. And I think that's probably enough to show that, yes, the coins are falling, and it's a very simple restaurant, and it's quite an experience.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Their innocence about it, and the genuineness, and their authenticity.
Yeah.
About the whole thing is what gets me. They're very surprised, naturally, very giggly about it. It must be weird. It really is a strange thing.
Yeah.
That there's things popping through a portal. And I'd like to tell people it's not like Stargate or something. You can't see a portal necessarily. There's usually not a big science sci-fi to do about a portal. Sometimes they're just, you can't see them, but you can see what comes out or in. That's kind of like when people see an interdimensional or a ghost, and then it disappears.
Yep. Absolutely.
They're not really disappearing. They're just going through the portal.
Yeah.
So there's a thing.
Yeah.
So that's what it kind of reminds me of. That things are appearing and disappearing.
Yeah, and the funny part about it is, it's really funny actually, that when Alona and her sisters there, they get coins, but it's usually about $2 to $5 or $6 worth of coin that is falling when they're there. But they have been other people. She said there was a person there one time that he got Czechoslovakian money that was equal to about $100.
Yeah.
And she says, why does he give it to other people and not me? So there really is, they don't have any control of what's coming.
They don't. That's another clue. Exactly. You're absolutely right. It's another clue that something's amiss, because it's not just directed at them. It's the communication is all about them, because when they're at the restaurant, then it happens. Yeah. And whoever's sitting around or whatever, it's going to happen to them too.
And that is a very recent development, is that, normally it has been happening in the restaurant. But there were one time she went home, and then coins started falling out of the ceiling at her home. That was Ilona's and her sister.
At her home, So that's pretty validating, Yeah,
that tells me that the funnel is not attached to the restaurant. It's attached to them, don't you think?
Absolutely. I 100%. I've always agreed with that. I don't think I've ever discussed that with them, because I try to keep my communications with them very short so they can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's a thought process that crossed my mind several times. Is this attached to them? And I'm not talking about some kind of religious way. I'm not a religious person. But it is the energy attached to them,
Yeah, it is.
It is.
And now Now you helped them write a book. Where can people find this book so they find out the rest of the story about what's going on over there?
Well, okay. They can go on. They can go on Amazon.com. Where people normally buy books, and their book is called Czech Girls, capital CZECH, Girls, ET Contact, like extraterrestrial contact, ET Contact, colon, with humanoid EBE Oli, OLIE. And so they can find their book there, and it's a nice little book, and it's an exploration of the first contact with E.B. Oli and what he was saying early on. And they have been writing all this stuff down for years, but I maybe captured a few months of it in the book. So, I hope that helps. Or I think it's maybe a year of it. I don't know, about a year of it.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
But you'll get the idea when you read some of those things that they couldn't possibly in a million years imagine those things, especially the way they get the communications. Like I said, it comes through Ivana while she's doing divination on a spirit board. And Ilona is writing it down as it comes. So there's no thinking about anything. She is just transcribing exactly what that entity is saying to Ivana.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very blunt, literal thing that's happening. And the things that are coming through, they don't have any education of, not at all.
Yeah.
It isn't their interest. It isn't their education. And a lot of times it isn't their belief. So it's not in the realm of their belief system either, a lot of times, because they, as a lot of people know, Eastern Europe and Europe in general is a little bit religious,
Oh yeah, very much.
Right. So there's entities, talking about a lot of things that you would not be able to say in a church. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But I hope people enjoy that, that book, and I hope they're interested in their story because it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. And I actually talked to Ilona about that, and they were somewhat religious too when they started out.
Yeah, that's what she told me. Yeah.
That changed. It changed.
That changed them a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And everybody over there is pretty religious. I've been to those East European countries, and some of the stuff I talked about when I was there, I figured out very quickly that keep your mouth shut. You don't make any friends talking about stuff that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's the same in here in America, in a lot of places. You can't really talk about these things to probably, I don't know, a good 30% of the population. You couldn't even say these things.
Yeah, I know. And now you have had some incredible experiences yourself, and you have written some books on that. Would you speak to that so people also can find out what you do?
Well, I haven't finished the book about my story and my childhood and all that, but I did put it part of that story that was relevant in my book Digital Moon, which you can also get on Amazon under Brett Shepard, or you can read it for free on internetarchive.org. So you can go to either of those two places. If you want a physical book, you go to the professional Amazon one. And if you just want to read the book, you can go to Internet Archive, because I made it open source. I want people to know about it. A lot of it has to do with NASA images and what was my personal story behind all of those NASA images and what I saw in them, which had more to do with art. Actually, it had to do with a hierophany or pareidolia, and an artistic aspect of the NASA images, rather than poking around and finding structures or something like that on the moon. Like Richard Hoagland or someone else. It wasn't ever my goal to look for anomalies. But the biggest anomaly was the picture itself.
Yeah,
that's what I found.
And then
because I got all kinds of communication through divinating through NASA images, and I soon learned that it wasn't just NASA images of the moon and space. There was also images that I took when I was a child. So it was also in those images. I saw a lot of forest beings and creatures. But what's strange is I can only see them. Unless I point them out to people, they're very difficult to see because they blend in with the regular subject matter of the photo. So it's very difficult to see these things unless you've got a trained eye, But I was looking at them, and I've got a picture of myself just standing there when I was probably about 11 or 12 years old, and there's these beings all around me, in this picture. Some of them look a little bit similar to when Harry Houdini was investigating the girls that saw fairies in the photos, or took pictures of the fairies and said they were interacting with them and all of that. And I think they were trying to lead on that it was some kind of hoax or trick photography from their father, but it's the same kind of situation. No one really knows what kind of dimensional aspect that was as well. So there's this physical and interdimensional space aspect to this stuff. And that's how I divinate things. I can read a whole story in just one NASA image, because it's all themed, and there's all kinds of different little pictures that connect to each other and tell a story. It's almost like a children's book or something. Except for sometimes a lot more explicit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah, they do not hold back. There's some of it can be very explicit. Yeah. And that's what I was told actually by the lady that was showing them to me when I was a child. I was 15 years old. She came into my art class at the end of the art class and picked me and my friend Chris. We were very good artists, and beginner artists or whatever in freshman year in our art class. And she showed me pictures or whatever, and she goes, "Look at that one. What does that remind you of?" So she was wanting my opinion in my eyes to decipher what these images were. And I come to find out 40 years later that those were the same NASA images that I was looking at. The same pictures from when I was 15 were shown to me from 40 years later, So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me at the time. But I look back at it, and I have a photographic memory, and I remembered every single image, and I looked for them within the NASA images. It's like looking at a puzzle picture, like if that Rupert Sheldrake would talk about the puzzle pictures and how they were psychoactive, and that's how these pictures are when you look at them with that sort of trained eye. Once you get going, you start dreaming about them. You start getting communications from interdimensional type entities, etc. And these are, in a way, a portal, into that type of communication. So it's a very kind of a trippy thing. But I was excited that my art meant something. That somehow my art from years ago meant something.
Yeah.
And it's just weird because it looks exactly like my artwork that I did when I was a kid, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's impossible.
Well, maybe
it's
there's
impossible for them to be embedded in NASA images and even Mars images, space images, you know, in general. How are my thoughts and my art embedded in these images that were taken in space? They weren't taken with a camera or something from somebody. A lot of them were lunar orbiter images, which is kind of weird because the lunar orbiter happened when I was born.
Yeah.
So that's another very bizarre aspect, and also I'm the same age as Ilona. So it's kind of a strange thing. Maybe maybe that has something to do with why we're susceptible to that certain type of portal.
Yeah, very well be. And the mind has a lot to do with what we see and experience because we live in a mind-created universe.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are all very interesting questions and aspects to look at. I still don't know why, but if you're stoic, why doesn't really matter.
Yeah. But it happened.
But it did happen. And it in my mind very vividly happened, you know. That's one of the aspects that happened. You know, and like I think I shared with you on your other show, you know, some of the stuff that happened when I was a kid. You know, these interdimensional or even physically extraterrestrial people would come at different times in my life and show me things, you know, that were important to either my future or maybe humanity's future, or I'm just a little piece of the puzzle. Maybe Ilona and Ivana are a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure they are.
Yeah, so that's what I think, and that's kind of how I look at it. I don't think we're the only ones. I just think we're the very few people that talk about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Very likely.
That's what I think.
Well, I see we are getting down to the end of the show here. So you let people know where they can find Ilona and her sister's book and your book. And gosh, this has been interesting. So I thank you again for being with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's always fun.
Yeah. And there's always something interesting to talk about. And you have a lot of experiences.
Yeah, so do you. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you betcha. And then I will recommend for everybody out there watching and listening, if you like what you hear, please subscribe and click the bell so you will know when the next video comes out and the next show comes out. And otherwise, there is one message I want to give you. Be good to each other. So see you later.